So, good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to be back here at the Mussar Monday. And last week we left off, we got into the beginning of the third chapter of Vigilance of Ramchal on Mesilat Yesharim, Path of the Just. And we said that there are two components that we need to think about, two times when we need to think about our actions. Number one is evaluate what is right and wrong. And number two is think about our actions, whether or not they were right and wrong. So first is what is right, what is wrong, and then apply ourselves to it. Is what I did right or wrong? Okay. And we said that there's also after we think about it and we evaluate and we decide whether or not we stayed within the parameters of good or bad, then the next step is to think whether or not we, if we didn't, how are we going to correct it? And that's the real objective here, is to avoid getting into those problems, to avoid getting into those situations of doing the wrong thing, God forbid. Okay, so now, and we ended off last week bringing a Talmudic source for this, where it said that Noach la Adam shelo nivra yoter mishenivra. It is more pleasant for a person not to have been created than to have been created. But now that we've already been created, you might as well search your deeds, evaluate whether or not the actions that you've done are appropriate or not. Okay. So now we're on the top of page 54 in the Art Scroll edition of the Ramchal. And it's about the third paragraph in the third chapter. Ramchal notes that a careful study of the Brisa reveals yet another dimension of proper self-analysis, and that is, you will realize that there are two versions of the Brisa presents us with two excellent and extremely beneficial exhortations. He says as follows: searching and probing. All right, we use two different terminologies in the Talmud: searching and probing. Ki hinei hapirush b'maasim, for the searching of one's deeds, hulachkor al klal hamaasim lihitbonen bo, means, the first, when it says searching, it means to examine the totality of one's deeds and contemplate them. Hanimtza bahem ma'asim ashelo yasu, to determine whether they include deeds that should not be done. Asher inam olchim al pi mitzvot Hashem v'chukav, that do not conform to the commandments of Hashem and His statutes. Kichol asher yimatzeh me'ele yeva'arem min haolam, for any such deeds are found during the search, he must eliminate them completely. So imagine this, okay? Someone is evaluating himself, and he sees that there are certain actions that he does that they're really not so proper. So those, you have to remove them completely. Completely. But now he says, hamishmush, what is probing? However, probing of one's deed requires a second version of the Brisa, required by the second version of the Brisa, refers to another kind of scrutiny. And that's namely, it is the examination of even one's good deeds, whether or not they were proper, with the proper motive. Okay? So it means like this: you have to look at your deeds and divide it into two categories. Bad deeds, get rid of them. Good deeds, evaluate what was the motive behind it. Was the motive also good? Or was the motive bad, but it happened to be a good deed? And the example we gave last week, so you're giving money to your synagogue to put your name on the building, right? I once heard from someone that they were visited in there. It was a museum. I knew the director of a museum, and he said that there's a name on the entranceway of the museum. Someone walked in and said, "What? That guy has his name on the museum?" Right? It was his competitor in business. So he said, "How much did he give?" So they said he gave 10 million. He says, "I'm going to give 15 million for my name to be there." right? So now, it may be a good cause, but is the motive a good motive? And that's what a person needs to think. It's not enough for the action to be a good action. It's great, good giving charity, but is the motive a good motive?
It's ego.
Well, right. So that every person needs to evaluate: A, is it a good deed or a bad deed? It's a good deed, but now the good deed, I have to evaluate if the motive was the right motive. Because if the motive wasn't the right motive, I have another thing to fix. Okay?
Oh, but Rabbi,
Yes.
some charity will never be given in that case.
Possibly. Hashem wants us to do things the right way.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
charities
So does that mean? Does that mean that we'll take money from anyone, even if? Because I can tell you some people who really want to give charity. Right? There are people who want to launder money.
Yeah.
Right? There are people who want tax deductions for their money that they shouldn't be having in their possession. Well, how about this? I can tell you someone who does very, very good deeds. Right? The guy held up a bank. Right? He held up a bank, and then he comes running to your institution and says, "Oh, I want to give charity. Do you want that money?" Right? So again, there's a good deed. No question, giving charity is a good deed.
It's not his money.
Oh, so that's another thing. But again, but the idea here is that we have to evaluate, because sometimes nobody else will know. In fact, 98% of the time, nobody else will know. Only you yourself will know, and if you have a good wife, she'll know. She'll know probably before you. Okay? So, says Lachkor v'lirot hayesh b'inyanam eze pniya asher lo tova. A person has to look, to examine and see whether there is improper motive within them. Or eze chelek rashi tzarech lahasiro levaro. Or any bad component that he must remove and eliminate from that good action. Meaning, no question, it's a good action. It's a good action. Good deed. Motive. What's the motive? Okay? And you'll be shocked by how much ill will there is in good deeds sometimes. Right? And it's not that there's ill will, I would say it's more than ill will. It is getting a true motive behind the action. A true motive. What is really going on behind the scenes? And what's going on, we mentioned this several times recently in our classes, in various different classes, that, it's interesting that we have here in our world today, we have cameras. Like right now, you're on camera 3 times. You know that? You're on camera 3 times. You have a camera up there, you have 2 cameras over there, right? And you walk out of the room, there's another camera, and then in the other. Wherever you're going, there's a camera. You go outside, there are cameras. Here, right now.
Gee, that's just
Right.
like my house.
What? And then you go outside, and in the streets there are cameras many times. Different places have different cameras, wherever you go, there are cameras. So they can see what you do. They sometimes can even hear what you do. Because they know what your thoughts are. That they don't know. You know who does know? Hashem knows your thoughts. Right? Hashem knows your thoughts. Well, they're trying to figure it out with AI. They're trying to figure out what your next move is going to be, which is why they have very interesting technology that figures out if you purchase this product, you might also want this product. Like they're figuring it out. There's no one sitting behind it saying, "Oh, let's push them this product." It's all computerized. The computer knows you have certain tendencies. This would naturally be your next 1 + 1 = 2. Now they have complicated algorithms, but that's the idea, is that they're trying to figure out. But Hashem knows. Hashem is not trying to figure out. Hashem knows what your thoughts are. He knows what your intentions are. Even though to the world it may seem like, wow, look, it's so, and the world, we know that we're living in a world that's very fake. So it's even more difficult. You think about a child. A child is very honest. Very honest. Usually. When there's food, so you're a guest in someone's house, you bring your child with you, and you say, "Here, why don't you try some of this?" They try it, they spit it out, like, "Ugh, it's disgusting," right? So what do you tell your child? "Shh, it's not nice. Just say it was very good," right? So, right? He's being honest, he's being straightforward, but we're teaching him to have, sadly, and it's not a good thing, we're teaching the child to have an opinion that's not really honest and that's not truthful. And that's one of the things we have to be very, very careful about.
And not manners? Better manners?
Yes, manners, but you have to be truthful also. And there's a difference between being truthful and mannered and lying.
There is.
Okay? You can say, it's not my taste. You could say, I'm not in the mood of this kind of food today. Well, there's many things you could say. You know, I'll tell you, my daughter, I said the story recently about my daughter. So I have a lot of great talents. One of the talents I don't have is matching clothes, okay? You can ask my wife and my daughter, and they keep on looking at themselves, and they're like, we got to teach them how to match clothes. So it was one day I put on a tie, and I went to my daughter. She was at that time maybe 6 or 7 years old, and I showed her my tie and my jacket. And I said, "Does this match?" So she looks, and obviously it didn't match. So what did she say? She didn't say it doesn't match. You know what she said? I think there's another tie that matches better. I think there's another tie that matches better. And that's honest. It's honest. It's sensitive, right? And it's not abrasive. Now, you could say the truth. It is the truth. The truth is that this doesn't match very well. There's another tie there that matches better.
It's being diplomatic.
It's right, but the idea is like this. We all know. I'll just tell you, very interesting. We're already here. It's Memorial Day, so we'll talk a little bit about politics. Not your kind of politics that you want to talk about. I'll just tell you like this, okay? So, I'll tell you like this. There is a great part of prayer known as the Shema. It's the most important part of every Jew's prayer. Saying the Shema, we recite it once in the morning in our morning services. We recite it once in the evening in our evening services. And then in our bedtime, we say Shema again. Kriyat Shema Lamita, we say Shema again.
Right.
Now, in the morning, after we recite the Shema, we say Hashem Elokechem Emet. Hashem, your God, is true. That's the end of the Shema. Right? By Vayomer. So then Hashem Elokechem Emet. After we say that, we say 15 different praises of God. V'yatziv, v'nachon, v'kayam, v'yashar, etc., etc. The last one is v'tov, v'yafeh. And so yafeh means beautiful or pretty. So my rabbi asked, he says, why is the first praise emet, truth? The last praise is beautiful or pretty. Why are they on the opposite spectrum? They should be one next to the other. Truth and beauty should be one next to the other. So my rabbi said, usually what's true is not pretty, and what's pretty is usually not true. Okay? And it's a very important fundamental principle that you will find all over. Anybody here met a politician? Yes, you've all met politicians. They sold you the Brooklyn Bridge. You had either a member, a congressman, or a mayor, or a governor, or a senator, or a president. It's very, very, very rare that you find a politician who says nice things and keeps it, right? It's either nice or it's true. They're not the same usually, right? And when it's true, it's usually not so nice. It's not so nice, right? So you think of fashion world, right? What might be in the eyes of the people out there, something might be pretty, it's not necessarily true, right? What do they need to do? They need to, right? They have all these different computer technologies to make things look better than they actually are. It's like items in the mirror, all right, are not as pretty as they look, right? Right? Just know that as a fact. And people who are running after Hollywood and people who are running after are usually devastated to find out that, you know what, the quality of life is not exactly so great, right? And the proof is that very rarely will you find a Hollywood couple stay married for more than like 6 months, maybe 6 years, but that's it, right? Because one second, if they have it all worked out and they have all the money that, you know, and all of this and all of that, they should have, no, they don't have anything figured out, right? But they're famous because they're on a movie. Or what's pretty doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Usually they don't go together. Usually they do not go together. It's very important to know that. So, when you see something, now we're not talking about judging other people. We're talking about judging ourselves. Okay? It's an important thing. Everybody who denigrates or criticizes a fellow is really criticizing themselves. You say about someone, oh, they're so selfish. You know what you just said? I'm so selfish. Right? That's what the Talmud says. When you say about someone else, oh, they're so impatient, right? You're literally talking to yourself.
Well, the bottom line
when you criticize others,
to criticize, period.
Right, but the Talmud is telling us that if you do criticize, you know who you're criticizing? Yourself. When you see the negative, when you see the flaws of others, you're essentially seeing a mirror of yourself. It's really yourself that has the flaws. It's a very important principle. But we're living in a world that's external. We're living in a world where people want to show things. They want to show that they're right, that everything has to be nice. Oh, the guests are coming quickly. Let's clean up. Why? Why? If this is who you are, then this is who you are. Again, if it's pretty, it might not be so true, right? If it's true, it may not be so pretty. Again, it's with everything in life. Why do things have to be nicer because other people are there? Well, you want to make a good impression. Is it truthful? Not necessarily. Again, we're not judging anyone. But a person has to look into themselves. A person has to look into themselves and see, if I'm doing a negative action, I have to stop. I have to immediately withdraw from that negative action. If I'm doing a positive action, then what? I have to look into that positive action, whether or not it has positive motives or negative motives behind it. Are we good? Is this clear? Excellent. Let's continue.
Can I ask you a question?
If it's on the topic, yes.
From the point where just a comment that I made, which Seyag l'chokhmah shtika, my point is how you measure what I just, am I, small little me, supposed to teach a great rabbi how to behave?
So,
or in respect to just like looking at me, where most rabbi are very nice, and get my attention, say, hey, Oprah, what are you doing for Passover? You understand? This is it. You measure that. Am I supposed to teach that rabbi how to behave?
Right. So it's a very good question, and it's one that's a big challenge, because we have to have respect for our elders. We have to have respect for our parents. We have to have respect for our neighbors, for our friends, for our rabbis. And what do we do if we see something wrong? So here's the thing. The Mishnah teaches us something very, very fundamental, and that is you always have to judge a person favorably. Now, there are times, right. But here's the thing, again. If a person is in a situation where they think someone ignored them, or think someone said something negative to them, so they have two options. Either be offended and be upset, or they could say, you know what? The person probably just didn't realize me. The person didn't see me. It's funny, I'll tell you what happened. Just this Shabbat, I was in synagogue, and I needed to step out for a second. I walked back in, and I looked over to make sure, because I want to make sure that everyone has a place, and everyone has a prayer book, and everyone has this and that. Making sure, looking around. Just not that I'm responsible for anybody else's, but I want to make sure to help out every person. Hey, after shul was over, after synagogue was over, my wife says to me, I was waving at you. You were ignoring me. I totally did not see her, right? I did not see her, right? She may have thought that right? So now, someone who doesn't know me, right, would think, oh, he's just a snob. He just ignores me, right? While I literally did not see her. I had no recollection of, I was thinking, like, I did not see anything. I just didn't see anything, right? So, that's, when you don't know the person, you may think that the person is out to get you, or they don't respect you, or they don't think of you highly, and that's why they ignored me. That's why the Mishnah tells us, be careful before you judge someone. Be very, very careful, and if you do judge them favorably. You have to judge people favorably, because I don't know anyone, particularly in your case, I know that person well, and that person is not does not fall into the category of what you expect, but let's leave it. We'll deal with it privately.
The lesson I will tell you.
Okay. All right. This form of inspection is similar to one who probes and feels a garment thoroughly before purchasing it. So when you buy a garment, you feel it, right? You want to know, right? That's called lemashmesh, is to feel it, right? Your actions, you need to feel whether or not it's authentic. Is it authentic or not? Right? Is it really good? Or maybe there's a little bit of bad in there, right? So, livchon hatov v'chazaku or chalashu balui, to examine whether or not this garment, this fabric, is good and strong or weak and worn, right? For a garment may appear to be sturdy and well made, when in reality it is seriously flawed. I recently bought a suit for Pesach, and it was bought. My wife bought it for me. My wife again does my shopping for me because I don't know how to match it, right? So I'm deeply grateful, by the way, that she does. But either way, she bought me a beautiful suit, and before the end of the Chag, I realized that the entire suit was falling apart. I mean, like completely. Very, very poorly designed, poorly made. Like literally, the fabric was just falling apart, completely everywhere. So she brought it back, and they said, "Oh, well, it must be a damaged item." Then they took it back. But either way, it was, it's like sometimes you want to just feel: is this real? Is it good quality? Is right? That's the same thing as the quality of our deeds. We do good actions, great. Are those actions really authentic and positive? In a similar manner, one must probe the good actions thoroughly. To examine their nature with the most rigorous examination. Ad sheyishaer zach v'naki, until he is left purified and cleansed of all and any traces of impropriety. Okay? I'll tell you that they say, that anything that is founded with purity lasts. Things that are not founded with purity eventually collapse. And there are many. I'll tell you, there's one great institution I'll tell you about, the Mir Yeshiva in Jerusalem. The Mir Yeshiva in Jerusalem is around for over 200 years. It started in Poland, and it went through World War I, World War II. It was moved to one place, and then it was moved to another place, and then it went to Russia, and then it went to Siberia, and then it went to China, and then to Japan. You can't imagine the trials and tribulations. Then it moved to New York, and then from New York to Jerusalem. Over 200 years this yeshiva is around. You know why? Because it started with purity. Absolute purity. Purity, right? Unadulterated, right? With no additions, when you buy olive oil, what do you want? You want 100% pure. Right? Pure, there's nothing else added to it. Same thing with any action that we do. It should be pure. Pure to the degree where there's no alternative additives, no artificial flavorings, no natural flavorings, nothing. It is what it is. Perfect, pristine. When they were laying
that
down,
would be applied to the speech itself.
Everything that a person does. The yeshiva of Volozhin, which today does not exist, when they were laying down the foundation, Reb Chaim Volozhin, the head of the yeshiva, was crying, and his tears were going into the cement when they were pouring the cement. Right? He was crying there when they were laying the foundation that it should be with purity, that this yeshiva should last, right? Because of the purity with which, for whatever reason, it didn't survive. Who are we to judge and to know, right? But most of the yeshivas, most of the institutions were devastated and destroyed and murdered. All of the students, the participants of the yeshivas during the Holocaust and World War II. But the idea is that we have to make sure that our motives are pure. Our motives are pure. Our intentions are pure. Okay. To examine their nature with the most rigorous examination. Until he is left purified and cleansed of all and any traces of impropriety. Okay. In summation, so what did we say till now?
So we have to look at our deeds.
What?
Search and probe.
Search and probe, right? Search and probe. Let's see. He says in summation, Klal hadavar, the sum of the matter is, a person should analyze all of his deeds, and monitor all of his ways, so that he does not leave himself with any bad habit or negative character trait. Kol shekain avera vafesha, and certainly not with any transgression or sin. So a person needs to examine their ways, every bad habit, every negative trait, to eliminate them. Right? So if a person, think of your day today. Whenever you woke up, the first person you met, did you treat them properly? Did you talk to them nicely, with respect, with dignity, with kindness? Right? The next person you spoke to, how was that interaction? You yourself, did you give thanks and appreciation to the Almighty? Were you properly serving God, or were you doing it just out of robotics? Oh, this is what I say. I say modani, and that's it. I say thank you, Hashem, and goodbye. Or do I really think it and feel it? So this. Right. So a person needs to constantly evaluate whether or not his actions are good or bad, and if they're good, how do I remove any possible shred of negativity that's in it? And monitor all of his ways, so that he does not leave himself with any bad habit or negative character trait, and certainly not with any transgression or sin. So if a person is doing transgression or sin, of course we have to eliminate that. But if a person is doing a bad deed, of course we have to eliminate the bad deeds. But if a person is doing a good deed, then we have to look at that good deed and examine whether or not it has any negative roots within it. Ramchal stresses that these assessments must be performed frequently if they are to be effective. Meaning it's not enough for it to just be, you know what, every month I'm going to take a few hours off. And no, it's got to be almost on a daily basis for someone to be at a point where this is effective in their life. He says, Ramchal, right? Says, now I see a need for a person to examine and evaluate his ways every single day. Every single day. In a manner of the great merchants who constantly monitor all their operations. So that they will not break down. Accordingly, he should establish set times and hours for this analysis, so that his evaluation not be haphazard, but rather will be performed with great regularity, for the benefits of such a routine are extremely beneficial and great. So, he's saying now another point, which is that it's got to be regular, on a daily basis. A person has to set aside time every day, and some sages in halacha say that a person, before you go to sleep, give yourself a few minutes to evaluate. You know what, look at your day, rewind the tape, and go through your day. Was I nice? Was I patient? Was I kind? Was I sensitive? Was I happy? Was I patient? Right? All of the traits that a person needs to evaluate. Was I truthful? Every day we need to evaluate. Was I acting in the way I needed to act? Was I doing the things I needed to be doing? Right? And then go into the evaluation of whether or not there was any negativity within it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Rabbi. How you evaluate, let's say, and I'm going to give in perspective, a rich man who give a donation, and the choice, and that's a rich man, he get it all out from the tax. It's just
Right.
the choice here, give donation to an institution that deserve it, and or give it to the government. That's the choice. Or the poor guy who basically cut out of his need to give the donation because he believed truly, or he made a vow once in his lifetime that that's what he's going to do. How you evaluate that? Which one is the pure donation?
So it's hard to know which one's the pure, and I don't think that's our place to judge it.
How you value that? Not pure. How you value that?
So again, the goal here is not to value other people, evaluate other people's actions. We have to evaluate our own actions. It's all about looking inside and evaluating within ourselves whether or not my action. We're not talking about evaluating other people's actions. What they do, they have to answer for. This is only for ourselves. So now, for ourselves, I'll tell you like this. If Bill Gates gave $1 billion and a poor person gave $1, who gave more money?
The poor.
Right, the poor person doesn't have, and he gave $1 to him. That's everything he has, right? While to Bill Gates giving $1 billion, he's got another 100 of them, right?
Yeah,
right.
Except he gave 40 billion.
Right, and you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if the Almighty decided to give him back another 40 billion because of that charity. So, it's an amazing thing. I've heard this from dozens and dozens and dozens of people, where they've told me the more charity they gave, the more success they had in their business.
Yeah, take for example Chick-fil-A.
And even people who were retired already, and people who weren't working a job, suddenly their stocks grew and whatever. It's an amazing thing that we think that 1 + 1 = 2, and Hashem comes in and says 1 + 1 = 11, right? And it's an amazing thing, right? It doesn't add up. It does not add up. Right? I know people who do incredible things with their charity, and it's like they say it's a guaranteed deal. It's guaranteed. Right? A person, you give it, Hashem will replenish it. And there are many times where it promises it. For example, in this week's parsha, we just read about the sabbatical year, where God says, "You take a year off for me, right? I will pay you back. You're not going to lose out." Right, you'll get a bumper crop on the 6th year. For the 6th, 7th, and 8th year, right, you'll have enough because of you taking that year off. It says that someone who doesn't have money for food for Shabbat, you can borrow on God, and God will pay back. Hear that, David?
Yeah.
You hear that? Right? If you don't have money for Shabbat, go borrow. God says, I will pay it back. Levu alai v'ani pareah. Go borrow on me, I will pay it back. How is that possible? Right? Again, if we do it for the right reason, we do it for the right purpose, Hashem's got us covered. Now let's continue here. Ramchal provides another Talmudic source for the critical nature of this endeavor. Chachamim zochronam levarcha horunu b'ferush tzorech hacheshbon hazeh. The sages of blessed memory taught us explicitly the need of such an accounting, of evaluating, and again, of the frequency also is important. This is what our sages of blessed memory meant when they stated in exposition of the verse in Numbers 21:27, Al-Ken Yomru Moshlim Bo Cheshbon. Regarding this, would the Moshlim say, come unto Cheshbon. The sages expound, what is Cheshbon? An accounting. Al-Ken Yomru Moshlim B'Yitzram. Regarding this, would those who rule, those who are Moshel, those who are in control, what do they rule? They rule their evil inclination. You know what they say? Bo v'nechashev cheshbono shel olam. Come, let us make an accounting of this world. Hefsed mitzvah keneged schara, weighing a mitzvah's loss against its profit, uschar avira keneged hefsida, and a sin's profit against its loss. Thus, we are taught that it is essential for a person to analyze and make an accounting of his deeds to ensure that he will follow the correct path. So, we want to evaluate. Yeah, if I'm doing a mitzvah, what am I losing out by doing a mitzvah? Nothing. Right? What are you benefiting by doing a sin? Nothing. Right? So if a person does a sin, he's losing out. If a person does a mitzvah, he's not missing out on anything. Okay? He's only benefiting. There is another lesson that is derived in the Talmud as well. Vizeh. Now, this directive is given to those who rule over their evil inclination. Ki ha'itza mitit hazot, because this sound and true advice, lo yuchlu latet ota v'lo lirot amita, this advice could not be given, nor could its truth be discerned, ela otam shekvar yatzu mitachad yad yitzram, except for those who have already escaped the domination of their own evil inclination, umashlubo, and have instead ruled over them. Ki mi shehu adayin chavush b'ma'asar yitzro, for if one is still imprisoned by the shackles of his evil inclination, ein einav ro'ot ha'emet hazot, his eyes do not discern this truth. If someone is still immersed in their negative actions, a person is immersed in the desires of their evil inclination, it's very hard to see the light. It's very hard to see right from wrong. Ve'eino yachol lahakira, nor can he recognize it. Ki hayetzer misameh et einav mamash, because the yetzer, the evil inclination, blinds your vision. He blinds your vision. He blinds your eyes. Ve'hinei hu keholech b'choshech, indeed, he is like one who walks in the dark. Sheyesh lefanav michsholot ve'ein einav ro'ototam, and there are obstacles in front of him, but his eyes cannot see them. Imagine that. Imagine that. You know, how many times have there been instances where you bumped your head, you didn't see that there was something there? How can you? It's right there in front of you. How can you not see it? Right? That's the way the Yetzer Hara, those who are not at the point where they've learned to overcome the Yetzer Hara, their evil inclination, they fall into the trap every time, not even realizing that it's a trap. And the Torah talks about it. Torah talks about how the first time a person does a sin, it's terrible. The second time, mistakes happen. The third time, it's not that bad. Fourth time, it's a mitzvah. Right? And then the fifth time, this is Rashi in Deuteronomy. It's not me saying this. Okay, Rashi explains. The fifth time, you're an extremist because you're not sinning like me. That's the way it works. Because you have to justify your wrong deeds. So now you're not doing it, right? Is glaring at me, right? So now you're the sinner for not following my lead here. Either way. V'hinei hu keholech b'choshech, it's like one who walks in the dark. Sheyesh lefanav michsholot, and there are obstacles in front of him. Ve'ein einav ro'ototan, and his eyes cannot see them. V'hu masha amru zochronam l'bracha. This is what our sages said of blessed memory, and this is what they had in mind when it says tashet choshech v'hi laila. When expounding the verse, you make darkness and it is night. Explaining that this verse refers to this world, which is comparable to night. Right? So what does that mean, that this world is compared to night? What's the difference between night and day? The day there's light. You could see. Yeah. At night it's dark, you can't see. This world we can't see. It's very difficult to see a clear picture. We need the light of the Torah to open up the pathways for us so we can see the right from wrong. But we see a world that's completely confused. They don't know what is moral, what isn't moral, what is ethical, what isn't ethical, right? What is just and what isn't just. It's unbelievable. It really is. You look today, you don't have to go far. You can turn on any television station, and you can see what's going on in the world, right? And people just living in absolute a contradiction. They're living with a contradiction, where they want to save lives here, but they don't want to save lives here because these mean something to them, these don't mean. If lives are valuable, then they should be everywhere. I don't want to get into the politics and into all of that of it, but we just have to see that we many times could be living with a total contradiction, and we're fine with it, because this is my party platform, or this is the way I grew up, or this is my understanding. It's a big problem, and we have to be cognizant of it.
I don't know if you heard the story about Staten Island. Orthodox neighbors just moved in, and how the intolerance and most like anti-Semites, Reform Jews.
To me it was surprising. Actually, I was very happy when I saw this morning. But recently there have been calls in Germany that Jews should not walk around with kippahs.
Yeah.
Right? So a newspaper, very beautifully, on the front cover of the newspaper, printed a kippah on the newspaper, and you can cut out the kippah so that you wear it.
Yeah, the ironic is
right. You can cut out the kippah, right, and they have exactly where to cut it. And this is the front cover of the newspaper. But I have a different question. You're talking about the German government has been giving since the Holocaust billions of dollars reparations.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars to pay for the lives that they destroyed and for the livelihood that they took away from the Jewish people that were there. And now they're right back to where they were. How is that possible? It's 80 years. It's 80 years since the Holocaust, and it's like nothing ever happened. Where they're going right back to where they were. How is that possible? And there are people who say, no, the Germans today, they're very civil. No, they're very nice people. Or they're very, really?
The ironic,
really? I don't know.
They voted against BDS, which it is, and
then they tell you, don't wear your kippah. Right. So either way, again, there's a total contradiction that people are living with. I don't want to get into the politics. I don't want to get into any of that stuff. But to me, this is just something which is very glaring, where people live with this contradiction on a regular basis, and they're perfectly fine with it. Right? We also say, what's more valuable, time or money? Time. And yet, people are not okay wasting money, but they are okay wasting time. Right? Yeah. You ask anybody in the world, what's more valuable, time or money? Every single sensible human being will tell you time. And yet, are they ready to waste a half hour doing nothing? No problem. But $10, waste right? It's unbelievable. So either way, we're going to stop here. Okay. But as a summary, what we discussed is as follows. Every person needs to evaluate on a regular basis, Ramchal tells us. You need to have it on a daily basis if possible. We need to evaluate our actions. If they're good actions, great. If they're not good actions, remove them. If they're good, you need to have another evaluation whether the intention was positive. Was it pure? Was it holy? Or was it for other motives that brought a person to that action? And this is we're gonna end here. We'll take questions after we turn off the recording, but I think it's something which is very, very important for us to really try to implement into our daily lives. To implement the time, it could be any time. Pick the time that you have. Find the time to evaluate, to stop and say, you know what? I have to think about my morning. I have to think about, and if there's a time that you feel is difficult, so create a plan. How am I going to set my time better? How am I going to do it so that I don't waste the time, so I don't say negative things, so I don't hang around with the wrong people, so a person has the tools they need to succeed. So for our friends online, we're going to sign off here. We're going to continue with our regular programming, Breakneck Through the Bible, from 8 o'clock on. So to all of our friends who are who are online, thank you very much for joining us. This program is now over. Howard, it's great to see you online. Come visit us. And please like and share these videos, and we'll be back on shortly with our regular programming. Thank you, Bobby. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. And you don't say Happy Memorial Day, but have a meaningful Memorial Day. Remember our fallen heroes and our soldiers who fought for us to have this freedom to sit and learn Torah here. Isn't that amazing? We can just sit and learn Torah. There are Jews throughout the history of the world that were persecuted for doing exactly what we're doing now. Sitting and studying Torah. You imagine, like, what's the problem? We're just talking about how to become a better person. No. It's not we don't like that. We're going to kill you. Come, we'll take you to the square and chop off your head. That's what they would do. You're learning Torah. And today we have such incredible freedoms. We have to be very, very grateful that we have such an amazing country that we live in today.
We have to watch out for those who want to destroy it.
Yeah.
Oh dear. It's getting.
Have a great night, everybody.
It's getting.